Hello there, welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. I've recently acquired 3 Parker Vacumatics and I can't figure out which one to do first. Let's look at what each of them need and then I'll figure out which one I want to do first. This is a double jewel Parker Vacumatic, 2 gold cap bands, no blue diamond on the clip. So this is the middle of the road value standard fountain pen. The top of the line had the blue diamond clip, of course. Here's my 1945 Parker Vacumatic Azure Blue Pearl. It is the premium version with the large cap band and the blue diamond on the clip. So all 3 of these are these standard models. This one all black, but with a transparent barrel, which looks actually very nice. I get a flashlight here, and you can see that nice transparent barrel. There are quite a few nicks and scratches on it, of course, being so old, but the clip looks in really good shape. Let's take a look at the imprint and see what we can see. You might not be able to see it on camera, but right there is a 0. So that's 1940, the 4th quarter of 1940. Let's unscrew the cap and take a look at the nib. And this is where the challenge is for this particular pen. Let's get a little closer here. Maybe you can see that that tine is broken off. So I knew that when I bought it. In fact, my favorite Vacumatic was exactly the same. The nib was, one of the tines of the nib was snapped off, and I made one of the best writing stubs I own out of its nib. So I thought, well, maybe I can give it another try and try to make a custom-made stub out of this nib. So that's one pen with the double jewel 1940 with a broken nib that needs repair. And let's take a look at this Azure Blue Pearl. Again, nice clip, not blue diamond, double cap band. It's not double-ended, but it has a lot of teeth marks or pliers marks or I don't know what. It looks like it was attacked by a tiger. Certainly that blind cap needs a lot of work. The rest of the pen isn't in bad shape. It's got a nice transparency to it. I forgot to look at the pump on the first one. Let's get the light going through it and we'll see. It looks like there's a working diaphragm in this pen, but we'd have to check that out. It feels okay, but it's suspect. And back to the Azure Blue. Let's uncap it and you can see it has a nib issue as well. The tine isn't broken, but it is seriously gnarly. Look at that, completely bent. So I'll have to straighten that out. That seems to be the major issue with this pen, plus those gouge marks in the blind cap. Let's check out its diaphragm with the light. It has a working diaphragm in it. Look at that. And actually, with this one, I put it in some water and pumped it, and I got a full 1.4, 1.45 milliliters of ink. So that diaphragm is in good shape. So major issues here are the nib is bent and the blind cap is chewed up. Everything else looks okay. And its date code says, where are you? Here's a 6 and a dot, which is the 3rd quarter of 1946. The last one up is the Golden Pearl, and it seems to be the nicest. It doesn't have a lot of scratches, just a lot of wear for its age. And how old is it? Let's find out. Where are you? There we are. And it has a dot to dot right there, which means the 2nd quarter of 1942. The clip is good, no bite marks, no deep scratches, and the nib is in excellent shape. It looks like an extra fine, very fine tipping on that nib. Let's check out the pump and see whether there's a diaphragm in this one. Nope, it's completely broken off. You can see it actually pushed the tip of the old desiccated diaphragm out. This one has the least issues. It just needs a diaphragm replacement. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which of you is gonna go? 1, 2, 3, 4, I pick you. Very scientific. I'm gonna do the Golden Pearl first. I think because, well, I've got a soft spot for these golden pearls. My favorite are the blue pearls, of course, but I've got one of those. So I'm thinking that if this one ends up writing nicely, I might just keep this rather than selling it. But isn't that gorgeous? So I think a little bit of polishing We'll see whether that section comes off. We'll see whether the pump comes out. We'll do some polishing, some re-diaphragming, and see whether we can get this pen back to the land of the living.
They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
And we'll save these guys for later. Let's get on with it. And here we are with the 1942 Golden Pearl. First thing we want to do is see whether we can get this section off. A little bit of gripper material and see whether it'll unscrew. Yes, it will. Good. No heat needed. There we go. Now we got the section off. Let's see whether we can get the breather tube out. Yep. And it looks like it's caked with very, very old ink. That should be transparent amber color. I'm going to soak this a bit in some pen flush, 9 parts distilled water and 1 part ammonia. Dissolve some of that really old ink to make it easier to knock that feed out of there and get at that nib. And we'll see a date code on the bottom of that nib as well. In the meantime, I'll take the blind cap off, turn on our inspection camera, and go down inside and see what shape that sack is in, if any shape at all. It feels very crunchy. So now that's out of the pen flush bath. We'll put it in the block and try to tap that feed out. There's the nib and feed. Feed looks in pretty good shape. And there's our nib, and I can't see it. I need the loop. It says dot to dot, and if there's anything more on there I can't tell. But it looks like it's in really good shape. It's not bent or anything. Not a lot of corrosion, old ink. So we'll polish that up with some polishing compound and with some metal polishing compound on my buffer wheel. And we'll let these pieces soak in the pen flush. In the meantime, I'll let them soak a little bit and then put that feed back in the section so that ebonite section doesn't deform. Without the feed in it, sometimes these sections get a little bit oval. So it's good to keep them together so they stay in shape. And here we have the nib all shined up. A little bit of polishing compound, a little bit of metal polish, polishing wheel, and some jeweler's cloth. And it looks like brand new again. So now you can see the point to point, which is the second quarter of 1942, Parker, USA, and there's nothing else other than the typical arrow on that nib. And the nib is in great shape. It looks like an extra fine, it's completely aligned, and we'll see how it writes when I get back in the pen. And here we have the feed and the section out of the pen bath. So it looks really good. I'm going to polish up that bottom side, the visible side of that ebonite feed with some polishing compound. I'm not sure whether this breather tube is black or not. I'm going to keep soaking it and running a guitar string through it to see whether it is amber or black. Sometimes the guitar string can scrape off inside ink and let you see whether it's the transparent amber celluloid or this black stuff. I've seen the black breather tubes before, but most of the time they're just dirty with ink. It looks black to me. Now, one warning about soaking ebonite in water or pen flush. You don't do it for very long because ebonite will go milky when it's impregnated with water. So just a couple of minutes at a time in the ultrasonic bath and dry it off and check it out. Maybe I'll put it in for another couple of minutes, but never overnight. Same thing with the ebonite feed. Ebonite does not like water. Okay, now we're going to see whether we can get that pump out of there. The inspection camera showed that there's old, torn up, desiccated diaphragm inside that barrel. I've soaked it a bit, hopefully to dissolve some of that old ink. And we'll get out the Parker Vac extractor from the inky nib, put the collet on the end, tighten it down, get some gripper material on that barrel, and see whether we can unscrew it without it slipping. And it's slipping. I'm going to try to tighten this down a lot more, as much as it will go. And we're going to apply some heat to that barrel. Do I have it? Did it work? Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, a lot of old ink. No glue. That's good. Yeah, I don't see any signs of glue, but a lot of old ink and desiccated diaphragm. So I'm going to put a couple of those threads back on so I can get the collet off. And I'm going to get a pellet pusher to push the old desiccated sack back out the other end without breaking the pellet retainer. There we go. Gentle pressure. And there is the pellet retainer with the pellet still in. Lots of old diaphragm around that pump, and the rest of it should be inside the barrel here. Yeah, there's all the old gack in there. So I'm going to soak that some more and then tease all those old pieces out of there. And we'll soak this some more and try to clean it up. Now that spring, yeah, that spring might need some tightening. It looks pretty loose there. Yeah, and this is sticking. I'm going to have to take a look at this and see whether I can tighten that spring. It looks like it might be old and rusty. So we might have to replace that. So into the bath you go. So I've had this Vacumatic pump in the pen bath for quite a while. And I took it out and dried it out, cleaned it all off, cleaned that little ramp right there, which clutches the new diaphragm inside the barrel, so it needs to be nice and clean. I even sanded it a little bit and sanded the edges on this pellet receptacle as well and drilled out the old pellet. I found the spring was rather sticky for some reason, and there's all kinds of old diaphragm stuck inside that collar, and so I cleaned all that out and tried to tighten that spring up a little bit. It seems to be working well. The barrel, on the other hand, had all kinds of old diaphragm on the inside, and I've scraped off as much as I can and cleaned that barrel out to get ready for a new diaphragm. So I've added a bunch of talc to this diaphragm, trimmed it to size with my Inky Nib tool. Has a little marking right there, which is really convenient. Push that pellet right up against the pellet pusher and see whether we can get it inside this pellet receptacle. These odd size ones, I've had a couple of these now, and that receptacle always looks a bit large to me. So we'll see whether this works. The other thing I noticed as well is that the celluloid rod on this is black. So that does confirm for me that they used the same material for the breather tube, that black celluloid. So to protect that, I'm going to put the collet from the vac remover extractor on there. It gives me a little bit of purchase on that to push. And it went in. Well. Okay. So we're going to put a little more talc on it and see whether we can get it to slide back on itself. I can never figure out whether this is going to be easy or hard because it's never consistent. So we'll see. Wow, getting that cuff started was tough. Find if I can, I know it's doubled up right now, but if I can get that lip right up against that little rim, that shelf, and then push the rod through, I can get it to pop out. There we go. Ends up being a little boot. There we go. That should work. Wow, that took, a couple minutes of teasing. Now we have to get this cuff inside that barrel, I'm going to use a little silicone grease. I'm going to add a drop to those threads as well as to the edge of that cuff so it doesn't twist inside the barrel. And so those threads will mesh nicely. There we go. Got to get it past that lip on the inside of the barrel, and we're going to use the collet to help us thread it in there. And just working it back and forth, and that grease should allow that to turn without kinking. Looks all right. And we've got to take this collet off. And it looks like it's working. Doesn't look like it's, well, I'll have to get my camera out and see whether that's working or not properly. No, it looks like it's twisted. Okay, we'll take it out again and try again. I hate when I get my Schwartz twisted.
Shit! I hate it when I get my Schwartz twisted.
So there is the pump, and it's working okay. It's just twisting around when I'm putting it in the barrel. So we'll try this whole operation again. Yeah, it's working better now. You might be able to see it working right there. Good. Okay, so there we go. So now what I want to do is clean my hands and put the nib feed and section back together again, and put the pen back together again and see whether that sack works at filling up this pen. Now let's see about putting this nib and feed together in the barrel. I'm going to put the section in the barrel first. Just going to add a little silicone grease to make it a little bit easier. There, gives me something to grip when I'm putting the nib and feed together. Now with the feed, I polished up the bottom side of it so it's very, very shiny, and then I sanded this part of it to get some of that ebonite dust going. And that little bit of ebonite dust on that feed helps lubricate that feed going in to the section. So we're going to place the polished up nib on top of the feed and line it up where I think it should be. A little gripper material, hold it top and bottom. And then we're going to try to find the sweet spot in a particular place, and you just feel it slightly indent. And I'm going to give it a push right there. Now, once I've got the nib and feed together, I'm going to check that nib to make sure I haven't pushed it out of alignment. And it still looks pretty good. Now I'm going to open it up and see where that feed ended up. It was fairly deep in there to begin with. Yeah, it looks about where it was originally. So we'll put that all back together again. And I'm going to test fill this with some water. I'll weigh the pen first, and we get 9.36 grams pressed hair, and then I'll go pump it up with some water. And looking at it with my light, you can see, you might not be able to see, but there's a little bit of a bubble in there, and it's completely full, so I'm expecting some good fill here. Yeah, 1.26, almost 1.3 milliliters of ink, which is pretty typical.
It's 5 o'clock.
So now I'm just going to empty that water, and we're going to dip test this nib. I want to find out if there's any work that I need to do to that nib before I polish the whole pen up. See what we have. This is a 1942 Parker Vacumatic in golden pearl. And it has a, I'm thinking it's a fine, not an extra fine. 14 karat gold nib. Let's check some flex. Oh, it's got some really nice flex to it. It has a good amount of feedback. It's not scratchy in any direction, but there is a feedback. I think I might polish that out a little bit. It's also extremely wet. Now that might just be the water that I had in it. Drain it again and try dipping it again. Might have made that Waterman's a little bit wetter than it normally is. No, it's wet. This is a very wet nib. So I'm thinking that I might have to cross those tines a little bit to try to make it a little bit drier. So we just do that by twisting the nibs like that and pushing them together and counting to 30, and then going the other direction and pushing them together and counting to 30. Of course, I'll do that off camera. I only did it for a few seconds. Check the alignment to make sure we haven't twisted the nib. Nope. Looks good. I'm going to do that a little bit more. This is still going to be as wet as it was. So off camera, I'm going to try to get that nib slit a little bit narrower so it isn't quite as wet. But it's a nice, wet, beautiful fountain pen. It writes with no pressure, no effort whatsoever. So very light touch with this one. Very nice. So now that I know that the pen nib writes very nicely and just needs a little bit of adjustment, a little bit of polish, I'm going to take the nib and section off and put it aside, and then we're going to work on polishing up that barrel. It looks pretty good already. I'm going to start like 3200 and see whether there's any deep gouges in there. By sanding it with 3200, it shows up where any gouges might be. And then I'll back up to coarser grits to get those gouges or scratches or bite marks or whatever. The cap is currently sitting in some Pensbury Manor Penetrate Potion number 7 to try to get that top finial out. I'm going to let it sit overnight with that Penetrate Potion soaking it to see whether I can get that clip off so I can polish up the cap as well. But we'll go at this barrel now. I think it's going to be gorgeous when it's done. And here is the pen all polished up, cap and barrel. I was unsuccessful at getting that top jewel out, and rather than apply excessive force, I decided to give up on the quest of taking that clip off. I polished the clip by itself on my buffer and polished the cap around the clip. It actually came up very nicely. One of the reasons why is that because it didn't have a lot of deep scratches, and I was able to mildly polish it rather than go at it aggressively to get out any scratches and gouges. The nib is in gorgeous shape. I went ahead and polished out a bit of feedback. It's now writing very, very smoothly with very little touch, and it is a fine line. I said before that it has some flex to it. It's not a flex nib at all. It is a vintage bouncy gold, 14 karat gold nib, which is very juicy indeed. So this is a beautiful writer. It takes a lot of ink. It's polished up perfectly. Looks almost brand new. 1942 Parker Vacumatic Golden Pearl. So I'm very happy with this restoration. The nib is a bit fine for my personal taste, so I'm going to sell this pen for $195 US. The previous one I restored was the top level with the large cap band and the blue diamond, and I sold that one for $220. So I think that's a reasonable price. If you're interested in purchasing this pen, just drop me a line at inkquiringminds@gmail.com with your name and your address, and I'll get you a shipping quote. Shipping to North America is about $10 US these days, and I'll send you instructions on how to pay my PayPal. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to my videos the moment I post them. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.